So glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad
We
to
know
be here.
you've been around here for quite some time, right?
Well, the brand has been around for quite some time, but we introduced it to the U.S. around maybe 10 years ago. Maddaloni was actually the very first point of sale in the U.S. And as it is, he is the exclusive dealership in Long Island.
Wow.
Yes, it is.
All right, great. Well, tell me then a little bit about the brand.
Well, the brand, as I mentioned, has been around for 160 years. We specialize in higher-end timepieces, meaning pieces that do so much more than just tell you the time. These are very exotic, very limited in production. We produce about, I would say, 20,000 units for the world. And of that, about maybe 2,000 come to the U.S.
Wow.
Yes, quite a few.
Now, just recently you mentioned that there is a lower price points line that you offer.
Yes, you see, the brand, as I mentioned, has been around for quite some time, and people associate it and recognize it as the maker of the finer timepieces. And it's been just maybe the last 12 years or so that we started to develop more accessible price points. And today we go from, I would say, $6,000 US to $1.2 million. So it's quite a bit of diversity there.
Let's talk about what's in your hand right now.
Okay.
Why don't you give us some information about this watch?
Well, this one is an interesting timepiece. This is called the Hour Striker.
Okay.
It's an equivalent of the grandfather clock for your wrist.
Put this in front of me. Here we go.
Okay, here we go. So what it does is this figure here will strike the bell every hour and every half an hour, indicating the time, just as a grandfather clock would.
Uh-huh.
And it chimes and you hear the sound.
Very cool.
Yes.
And what does that go for?
Well, this happens to be a platinum edition. We are going to make 50 of these for the world with an onyx dial. The retail price of this one is $115,000. And of the 50 pieces, I would say maybe 4 will come to the U.S. in the next 5 years.
Now tell me about this beautiful watch that's on my arm.
The Freak.
This is something special, something different.
The Freak, I think, is what defines Ulysse Nardin as a maker of really exclusive and special timepieces. The Freak is a project that started back in 1994 with the idea of creating a timepiece that defines all convention. There's nothing...
There's no crown.
There is no crown. There are no hands.
Okay.
The movement or the machinery itself will tell you the time. Nothing has been done like this in the industry before. The project, when it began, it was called Freak, because the idea was to come up with something very unusual.
Yeah.
And over the time, when it was finally developed and we launched it in the year 2001, it really retained the name, because truly there is nothing like it. There are no hands, there is no crown. The movement itself will tell you the time. And what's more special about that, the bezel, once you release it, will turn backward or forward to set the time. The winding mechanism has an 8-day power reserve, which you wind from the back. You turn it upside down, you rotate the case, and you wind it.
Great. And how much does something like this go for about?
Well, the starting price point here is $75,000.
Okay.
We make some limited editions that can go up to $150,000, yes.
Great. Anything else you want to tell us then about the brand?
Well, for us, really, the challenge has been to enter the American market and really introduce a brand to a market where it's much more familiar with what we call commercial brands. I think the market has matured in a way where the consumers today are looking for much more so than the average brand that everybody knows. They're looking for exclusivity. They're looking for something special. And for that consumer who's looking for that, my message would be to understand that Ulysse Nardin carries a high pedigree, a very old pedigree, a very important history, but prices that are quite accessible. As I mentioned, $6,000, and sky's the limit.
That's very affordable, and I think I'm going to borrow this just for a little while, but I'll bring it back.
Be my guest.
All right, thank you so much. Very nice meeting you, Nelson.
Nice to meet you as well.